What is up, guys? It is Armando and Tyler here on a Saturday. We're going to sit down here and talk about MyGURU, the tool that we offer on our site, which has just so many things that are useful, so many functions that will be helpful not only during the draft or in the preseason, but also during the year. Before we jump into it, I know you guys are not seeing us where you're seeing my screen at the time, but Tyler, how's it going, my man?
What's up? Happy to talk about MyGURU. It's one of the great features we have over here at Fantasy Guru. So I figured it'd be a good idea to give a little tutorial on how to get the most out of your subscription and what exactly MyGURU entails.
Yeah, man. This is I did a podcast with Ray this past week, and it's gonna be live on the site next week, guys. So make sure you tune into that. But so many functions, it's so useful that it's just something that really you should be taking advantage of as a sub because it's a really cool tool here. So let's jump into it. Before we jump into it, I did write a tutorial here. You can see it on the screen back in June. Just a bunch of screenshots going step by step here. I'm going fast here because it's available. You can find it on my author page. And if you need the link, just feel free to reach out here. So let's kick it off right here. So get started. I mean, this is MyGURU right here. And then get started. You'll see it's loading. I've already uploaded my league, imported my league here. And you see right here, it's just pretty much a click of a button. You import your league, choose whatever platform you have, provider, as you see right here. I know you did yours as well, right, Tyler? So I did mine from ESPN. Did you import your league from any other platform here?
Yeah, I was able to do it through Yahoo and My Fantasy League. No problems at all. Both were able to go through successfully.
Okay, yeah. And once you have that information here, you can pretty much just go to your leagues here, guys, and then look at these settings. So I synced mine a couple days ago, and then you pretty much have this right here, the league settings. It shows you each and every position here. You have your scoring setting types, so you pretty much can customize it like mine, or you can go by default settings like a half PPR, standard, full PPR. CBS has their own default settings. ESPN has their own default settings. Are yours customized as well, Tyler?
Yes. Again, so it's just through that drop down where yours says ESPN and then Fantasy Football Degenerates. Mine just says Yahoo, and then it has my league's name as well. And again, that allows you to adjust for any kind of super flex formats, point per carry, if you want to mix up the PPR, half PPR, however your league is set up. It allows you to customize those. It allows you to pull in those customized different scoring settings. So it's already pre-loaded for you there once your league is loaded.
Yeah, and right here I click franchises. So you're going to see all of the teams in my league here. Again, once you upload your team into this system, you're going to be able to see all of your teams, all of the teams in your league here. And then you can go to projections. And this is essentially our projections. And it's giving you right here based on the scoring system from your league or from a league with our projections combined. So here you go. Based on my scoring system, Lamar Jackson is expected to score the most points here based on our projections. Did you get the same results on your end? Like, did you kind of mess around with this, Tyler?
I haven't been able to yet as far as that. I think we might need to wait until my league does its draft in order for that to come up.
Okay, yeah, we still have. So we have a recurring league that just continues and continues. So these are the rosters from last year. We haven't done our draft, but on ESPN apparently they keep your rosters intact until you draft again. So we're set to draft later in the year. So fortunately we have this. So this is basically last year's rosters. We haven't drafted this year's, but it kind of just gives you an idea of how this works right here. So you got position by position, and you got you got the quarterbacks first, and running backs, tight end, receivers, and things like that here. And then waiver wire. This to me is a really cool feature. We always get a lot of waiver wire questions, and we both write waiver wire articles on the site. But One question we get a lot is rest of the season stats, or who we expect to have a good, rest of the season. Right here, if you go rest of the season, it's going to have the projections of all the players available in your waiver wire, and their projected rest of the season stats here. To me, this is a really cool tool, especially for those looking for not a replacement this week, but someone that they could have on their roster, the rest of the season. What do you think about this, Tyler? Because I really think this is a cool feature here.
Absolutely. That's one of the biggest questions we get week to week, as you mentioned. And I love that feature there. I think it's a great addition to MyGURU. I love the ability to look at different flex positions as well. You can toggle running back, wide receiver, tight end, or go through and see all three to see who is the best overall flex play of the week or for the remainder of the season. Plenty of different versatility options there. So there's a lot of good tools here to use that you can help as far as weekly management, future upcoming week management, and just the overall season. A lot of good tools here.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then for those that like to look at the matchups, with whoever you're facing, just to get an idea of what projections are. This is obviously the entire season, but you're going to have this on a week-to-week basis where you can look at your lineup versus someone else's lineup here, and you'll have the projected scoring as well as the bench. So if there's someone on your bench that you might, want to start because he's projected higher, you can do that. But this is just, to me, a really cool, just, tool to get an idea of what to expect. Obviously where they're in the chat room, obviously we have our weekly rankings and where they're answering questions. But if you're in a bind, on a Thursday night and we're on the live stream or any situation, maybe a Sunday afternoon game, you're looking for upside now. You can see the projections here based on our rankings and our projections. So I really do think that that's a cool tool. So that's pretty much as far as your league settings, your importing your league and the functions that you can use here based on that. If you have a custom, create a custom scoring, you can always go right here and you name it, and then you can pretty much go with PPR, and then it's going to take you, so we can just do test PPR, and then, you go here, and then it's going to essentially take you to right here where it allows you to edit, and then the edit button is at the bottom here, and you can create different rules. It's pretty much going to bring in the standard PPR settings. You can change this here, to by 6, by whatever the case might be, interceptions by 2. All this can be changed by going down here. You edit and then just click save right there, guys. So definitely very user friendly, very easy and straightforward here for those that are in formats that have very unique scoring settings. And then again, the projections are going to feed off of those, scoring settings as unique as they are based on our projections here. So I think this is pretty cool because we get a lot of questions about, tight end premium. In this situation, you can put, tight end premium leagues, quarterbacks when there's more emphasis placed on the quarterback scoring, things like that. What are your thoughts on this, Tyler? Because this is pretty cool to me as well.
Yeah, I just love how customizable it is. Just for fun, I did a 6-point passing touchdown and a 4-point passing touchdown to see the differences in how the quarterbacks ranked up in our projections. And outside of the guys at the very top, there's very minimal difference between the two scoring formats. So again, I think that was just an interesting study to see if it actually carried through to the projections, to see if it made sense. Because we typically say the difference between 4-point and 6-point passing touchdowns is very minimal, except for the guys at the extreme, and it held that theory accountable. So I do like the idea of being able to edit any kind of rule you want and then seeing how it actually plays out. If you're a commissioner, you can also kind of test drive some of these things and see how they impact different player positions and the different scoring systems available there.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's tools that you can use just as reference, and that's what I like about it. And I think that's a good point as a commissioner. If you want to kind of make the league a little bit more competitive and balance out the playing field, you can come here, mess around with different scoring, settings and see what might balance out the playing field here. So is there anything here I'm missing or anything that you think we should talk about before jumping into one of the next features of this tool?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward. I think once you're in here, moving around with the different drop-down menus and seeing how things operate, you can pick it up pretty quickly.
Yeah. So, all right. So we talk about mock drafts and we talk about, we do best balls here as mock drafts for ourselves. We also like just, investing in best ball uh, because it's just something pretty much we've been doing here. But if you don't want to invest in best ball leagues to get an accurate, mock draft, one thing we offer here is this mock draft simulator. So you can go right here where I went, mock draft simulator is going to take you to the page right now. You set the preference. This is what I like about this. You could pretty much, customize it very, to your league. So you can do PPR, snake, opponent logic, basic or advanced, one QB. We talk a lot about super flex. So we can make this a super flex league, 12 teams. You can randomize, right here, the position. 6, we'll take the 6. And then kind of this is the rest of the settings. And you'll be drafting against experts. So this is going to be a computerized mock draft, but it's taking everything that you just plugged in here into consideration. So it's not going to auto draft best available, player on a specific site's rankings or ADP. It's going to take all of this into consideration. So, and it's really, really quick. I don't know if you've tried this out yet, Tyler, but if you haven't checked this out, man, like start your draft and look at how quick this mock draft goes. So it's obviously loading. Once it goes, it's here you go. I mean, I've already taken the tour here, guys. So there you go. I'm up on the clock now. Let's say I'm definitely, so it gives you here which players are the preferred picks, the percentage of the experts that agree, the top 4 players on the board based on your scoring setting and your league settings. And aside from that, you have, this feature right here that you can pretty much, I'm trying to click on it. I'm not sure why it's here. All right, well, I'll go ahead and draft Zeke Elliott here, but look how quick this goes. Like, so you can knock one of these out if you really want to mock, within minutes, a couple minutes here. So we can just do that here. I'll go here. Who would you go? You pick this next one. So I'm just going to do a few rounds so that they can see how this works, and that's it. But pretty straightforward here.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you click on that thing that you were trying to the right there, it shows
there we
you
go. Yeah. So I'm
who has
trying. I
been
don't know why
taken.
it's not popping up here.
Yeah, it's a great hidden tool there. I don't know why that's hidden, but it shows you the overall players based on rankings, and it breaks it down by position as well to see which are the best remaining players. Great feature. So
Yeah,
you can
it
see
does.
here, if we want to go with a running back start, we're already at the bottom of tier 2. So I think it's a good time to pick a running back. If we try to look at, like, if you scroll down to the wide receiver position, I'm pretty sure we're smack dab in the middle of a bunch right now.
Yeah, we still have some tier 1. So we went with Ezekiel Elliott first. So we do have that RB1, and you can go with 2 tier 1 players. Assuming we go with someone like Julio Jones or Tyreek, or we can lock in, like you mentioned, that end of that tier 2 running back position. Then the quarterbacks. This is a super flex, so kind of shows you how quick they're coming off the board right here. So yeah, I think this is a really cool tool. And then you it's not like you're on the clock or you have to, you could take your time here to really study this. I'm trying to click. Here you go, by round draft board. You could do by roster, so it shows you every team, what they have. I like this tool a lot because for me, this is something I use when I'm drafting. When I'm doing the live draft, I have the draft board right in front of me. When I'm doing an online draft, I like to have the draft board on a separate tab to kind of look at other teams, what they're doing, what they might do with their next picks. And it really does give me information or useful information to make my decision, because if I have if I'm targeting a position where some of the teams behind me are very strong on, I'm going to skip on that position if I think they'll fall back. That position will land back to me. I've done that a couple times in best balls. And to me, this is just a really cool, feature and tool. But just a lot of information here for a mock draft for those who really don't want to invest in best ball leagues to kind of get an idea of where players are going. Anything else you want to touch base on here, Tyler?
Nothing really. You hit on everything that I think is important here. I'll just say the great thing about this is you can test drive mock drafts from anywhere in the drafts. That's based on the preferences at the very beginning. So say you have a middle round draft pick like what we were given here with the 105 pick. It's a lot more difficult with the middle rounds, I think, right now in terms of drafts this year. Middle and later rounds are,
Yes.
because I mean the early rounds you have those early running backs that are pretty easy plug and plays, but if you're struggling from the middle, like how do I go after Dalvin Cook's taken? Do I really want to reach on CEH? Well, test drive it. See if you can build a team with Clyde Edwards-Helaire as your round one pick, and see how the team forms from there. Lets you operate in different ways. You can rewind the clock as well. You can restart it. You can undo, go back. I don't know. It lets you test drive it. So that's what I really like about this draft simulator that we have here.
Yeah, I agree with that. It gives you an opportunity to try different things out before your actual draft and see where your comfort zone really is with your approach and how you feel, more, I guess, more comfortable taking on your draft. So, really, to me, this is, obviously it's something we use best ball drafts for this, but for those who don't want it, invest in mock drafting. This is a really useful tool. I pointed it to someone in chat last week that was asking about it, and I think they really liked it here. All right, let's jump out of here and let's get down to. All right, so we've done this. My custom score, my leagues. All right, this is the cool thing. This is a cool feature right here. This is the draft analyzer. It's going to take us to a totally different screen here. You can read this, guys. It's essentially telling you what this is useful for, how it's used. I know you dabbled with it this morning. Before we jump into anything you want to say to anyone here as far as the uses of this, again, guys, you can find all this information here in the tutorial that I wrote back in June. Explains exactly what it is. But anything you want to say before we jump into the actual analyzer tool?
Again, like it says in bold, it's a single license you're able to use here. So make sure you pick your league wisely, whichever one you're going to use for your draft analyzer. Make it your home league or your most challenging league.
Yeah.
Really, really cool tool though. Once we get into it, so yeah, let's dive in.
Yeah. So let's do it right here. All right. So I have my home league here, and it gives you a couple options in the app options. As you see here, there's the in-season analyzer, and I'll just click here really quick. There's nothing in season right now, but just to kind of give you an idea of how they use it. So here you go. You see this right here. It's giving you recommended starters for week, recommended flex for the week, and recommend and keep on the bench for the week. So this is all coming from the projections we have, and each and every week we're going to have different projections. So this is going to feed off of that each and every week. You could come here and kind of take a look at that, see who, based on our projections, who's the recommended starters, who are the recommended players to be in your starting lineup here. You go here and it just gives you, some performances. Right here, you'll see all of that. You got free agents. It's going to give you some of the top free agents. You can, trade analyzer, and we'll jump into that later because I think that's a cool tool. And then rate my team. It, kind of gives you your rankings based on the projections that we have here for your team. Anything you want to add here, Tyler, as far as this little section is concerned? Any uses you think will be, cool for this?
I think the trade analyzer is a pretty cool tool.
Yeah.
Lets you see what you're giving up, what you're receiving, and the projections for each player. Again,
Yeah.
I think you want to use that with some context. Make sure you're looking at bye weeks. Make sure you're seeing how many weeks they have remaining in their schedule and whether or not these players had experienced their bye weeks, because a player could have an extra 20 or so points per game simply because they've already gone through their bye week and the other player hasn't. So get some context before you finalize those trades. But really cool tool there.
Yeah. I agree 100% there. And so I got out of there, and then now this is right here, the draft analyzer. you go right here, and this is going to essentially have your league settings in. And I'm not sure why mine's not popping up yet. There you go. All right. So based on my league scoring settings, or based on the projections, this is it right here. You can sync your leagues. You can change your settings up here, as you can see. And essentially, this can be used as a tool when you're drafting with, and it's going to have a ton of information here. I mean, so much information. For instance, like when I'm drafting, I don't know if you do the same. When I'm doing the live draft, I always have my laptop or whatnot accessible, and I have a bunch of news, different news feeds to make sure that as I'm drafting, or while I've been drafting, no one got injured. I typically draft during preseason games or whatnot. I know we don't have that this year, but there's going to be training camp news. There's going to be information out there that pop up. So I can just go on any player here, click on the player and just news. And then the latest player news is going to pop up. Fortunately for Zeke, there's not much news. But that's not going to be the case, as you go through the draft. So that's one of the first things. And this is not even, getting deep into this here. So you're going to see the best players available at each position, all ADP right there. Go here, you draft a player. And then once you draft a player, you'll pretty much, as players are drafted, you just essentially take that player out of the player pool. So this tool is going to give you the highest ranked players. The best options at your pick are here on the left-hand side. And this is all going to be based on your scoring settings and your roster settings here. Anything you want to touch base on in this screen, and then we'll go to some other screens. But this is pretty much, I really find this very useful. For those who want to have all-in-one stop, shop when you're drafting, and you, instead of printing out rankings and scratching out or whatnot, you're going to have projections, live projections right here accessible to you.
Yeah, I think it's a very, very cool tool to have. I'm probably going to be running my home league through this draft. I did not do it last year, but definitely plan on doing it this season. Just really cool features that they have here. And again, it's similar to what we did with the mock draft in terms of seeing the overall players that are available, which players have been taken. And I like seeing that context, which is really nice to see.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And then look right here on the right-hand side, you'll essentially see the starting roster positions, and it gives you all of the positions and your bench as well, and just kind of let you see what you need, what you don't, what position you've drafted, where you're at. And then that leads me to this draft grid. Again, this draft board, to me, I always like referring to a draft board, because if I'm picking here, if I'm team 2 and we're in these mid rounds and I'm looking for a quarterback, and team 1 already has a quarterback, or even if I'm team 3 and we're here in round 8 and team 2 and team 1 already have quarterbacks, and I'm looking to draft a quarterback, between the 8th and 9th round, if these two teams have a quarterback in a one quarterback league, chances are I'm going to be able to get it here in that 9th round. So I can address another need or add depth to my roster and pick 8. So I know, the draft boards are just for looks a lot of the time, but I like to refer to it because it does give me an idea of what other teams are maybe considering here. You can also break it down like this by roster. So it's going to let you see what team needs are. It's pretty similar here to the draft board. One of my favorite things here is we're constantly trying, looking for that RB2, RB3 sometimes, especially in these deeper leagues. And I think for the most part, everyone's going to expand their roster settings this year, considering the COVID situation and whatnot. So all leagues are expected to expand, as far as size is concerned. So going here, you look at each and every team at their depth charts, essentially. And it's just it's listed as you can look at that offensive rank right here, 1 through 12, 13 to 24, and then 25 to 32, or alphabet. However you want to list these teams, they can be listed that way. But it's cool because you get, pretty much a depth chart for all NFL teams in one place, not having to scroll around, type in anything. It's just all right here, pretty much in your hands. So Have you seen this yet, Tyler? Because this is pretty cool.
No, I have not. So it's really cool to me to see these kind of camp battles that we're projecting and to see how each player is ranked based on fantasy points they're anticipated to score. I imagine we'll see these things upgraded as we go throughout the rest of training camp. But I love this ability to see a wide receiver 3 on a high scoring offense versus a wide receiver 3 on a low scoring offense and try to pick the one that I think has a better chance of putting up more fantasy points. Really cool feature here.
Yeah, this is honestly one of my favorite things here. And then again, guys, so you essentially can go. Oh, got out. Sorry. So you can essentially go here, and then assuming I draft, Christian McCaffrey at pick 1. Once again, once the player in pick 2 is taken, you just keep doing this, and all it's going to do is going to keep updating, the best possible options for you here. For each and every team, and it's going to show you on the left hand side. So for your next pick at pick number 24, it's going to essentially give you the top options that the system believes will be available for you. I highly doubt Joe Mixon's going to follow me, of course, but it's just giving you the best, based on projections, based on ADP, based on all of these factors that is taken into account here. You look at you can compare players, so you can compare to another player, and it'll give you ADP, it'll give you fantasy points, a bunch of stuff. So that you have there. So that goes. So let's just say we go Elliott here, and then you can just keep doing this, and it's just everything is going to continue popping up here. As far as you'll see here, the ADP, the best available. Right, all of them right here by position here: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. Again, it's just one of those situations where you can essentially top 5 recommended. You could do my draft plan, which you essentially can create a draft plan. Let me see what else you can do here. So my watch list, you can add watch list. There's avoided players, as I showed before. You can avoid a player. You can see your avoided player list. You can see your targeted player list here, and compare players. Again, it's just going to essentially compare expected fantasy points, based on the projections and whatnot. So the one that is set up to the top 5 recommended. When I'm drafting, I'd probably have the top 5 targeted players, on my list, and then I'll just look at ADP right here, where it says all ADP, and see where they come in ADP. Any thoughts here on this, Tyler?
Yeah, I like the compare players aspect right there. I did this right now with Zach Ertz and Mark Andrews and checked both their boxes, and it shows you on your screen their tight end rankings by week over the 2019 season. So it lets you see how frequently they were like the tight end number 5, the tight end number 3, tight end number 1. Really cool, like season-long view to get of each player, and it includes the outlook, the current blurbs that come with each player. So a lot of good information there. I would say get in here and try to test drive it a little bit before your draft. So by the time your draft occurs, you're not racing against the clock to figure out who the most optimal player is. Do a couple test drives here with the mock draft capability and see how it works.
Yeah, and I brought us here to the screen you were talking about when you're comparing the two players. So right here, you'll see ADP by site, which is pretty cool. You'll see the positional rank each and every season. And then you'll look at last year's weekly production, where that tight end finished each and every week based on the PPR setting. Here, at least, we're using a PPR setting. But yeah, I think this is really cool because, again, you if you're torn between two players, you can just kind of dive in here and say, all right, these are the two players I'm thinking about, and just use this information to maybe base your decision. So definitely a cool feature here, guys, that is going to be useful. And we don't mean to be redundant, but it's just you can do so much here. You can customize these things, to your settings. It's going to show that the best available players for your settings and whatnot. Anything else here? And again, guys, this can be used during your draft. This can also be used as a mock. You see right here. start mock, and it's basically you pick whatever position you want to pick out of and mock from there. Again, it's going to go based on projections here in league settings. So I would probably be using this strictly for my actual draft, and then for after the in season stuff, to compare to pretty much projections like I showed earlier on and things like that. But I mock draft, we also have that mock simulator that I think is very useful, and it's super quick. So you can also customize that like we showed you. So but yeah, you can use this for in season, preseason, and obviously during your draft. Any final thoughts on this one here that you want to touch base on that I might have missed?
Just the very bottom, you'll see like draft grid F3, fantasy rosters F4. Use those like the F buttons on your keyboard to quickly tab between the different things. Just it's a quick way to maneuver across this, which it's pretty evident, but I figured worth saying as well.
Yep, that's true. All right, so let's get out of the analyzer. All right, now we talk. This is one of my favorite things. You talked about it before, the trade analyzer. So you go right here, trade analyzer, and this to me, man, this is all right. So I spoke to Ray about this during our podcast, and to me, this is not just to make a decision, right, as far as a trade, because we're here to answer those questions. We are going to answer your trade questions, but if you want to propose a fair trade, I think this is a good way to create a trade where not only is a balanced trade, but it's not going to offend the the other team, because we see some trade offers sometimes and we're like, what are they thinking? Like, that's just like, come on, But I think this right here is beyond cool, because we can go right here and Joe Mixon. And this is a closed trade, right? It's just a matter of preference. And you got analyze this trade on a just, you can customize the scoring, do test PPR, my personal home league, but I'm just gonna keep it at default PPR. So you click analyze trade, and there you go. I mean, it gives you all the information you need right here. Team A is getting Joe Mixon. Team B is getting Nick Chubb, and it's essentially giving you Team B has a 1.16 advantage in terms of total fantasy points expected for the season. Again, this is going to you're going to have the rest of the season projections for this when you're trying to get your trade. So I think this is extremely cool. You can do up to 5 players on each side in a trade. Awesome tool here. Again, you don't have to use this to make a decision. That's what we're here for, to answer those questions. But if it's a last minute trade, or if the owner tells you at 11:50 at night, or hey, I need to know right now, yes or no, accept it, take it or leave it, and there's no one to answer your question, or whatever the case may be, you come here and kind of get an idea whether the trade makes sense for you or not. What are your thoughts on this, man? Because I find that this is like my second favorite thing with this tool.
I love it. Yeah. I think the ability to see different trades, and say you want to do a strong running back and a weak receiver for a strong receiver and weak running back, try to flip that. Say you have a plethora of quality backs and need to add some wide receiver strength. It lets you do those 2-for-2 trades and see what kind of value you get. Try to create something equal. I mean, perceived value is always one thing, but seeing projections and putting a number to it, I think actually helps reinforce seeing if the trade's fair or not.
Yeah. Is there any trade you like, or anything you want me to test out here so someone can, the viewers can check it out? Because I think that's a great, point that you made there. Like, if you're trying to, that's maybe one of the toughest trades to make, where you're giving up a good running back for a good receiver, and then you're swapping a bad running back for a bad receiver, or mediocre running back for a mediocre receiver. I do think that those are trades that it's really roster dependent, but like you mentioned, when you look at the projection, there's a number to really have there. It makes it easier.
For sure. Yeah. It helps drive home your arguing point and figuring out whether or not it's actually a good move for you, or whether or not you're actually hurting yourself a little bit in the end. And I think it's also especially value for 2-for-1 trades, where is it worth giving up 2 maybe rookie running backs for a strong quarterback in a superflex league? I just did I just did Cam Akers and J.K. Dobbins for Josh Allen, and it was a pretty even trade, separated just by just a few points. Uh, it's just a really cool tool to test drive and see what kind of trades you can make. And again, keep in mind when we say this all the time, your trade partner needs what you're trading as well. So as much as you think that they're equal trades on this, you also have to sell it to the opposing party as well. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I really do think that this is just one of those tools that you can use to create a trade offer, to weigh out some of the trade offers you receive. In just I even mentioned on the podcast, like, if the fantasy owner if the other owner you're trying to trade against comes back and he says, "Oh, this is an absurd offer," you could come back and just kind of, "Hey, look, is it an absurd offer based on these projections? It looks like it's pretty fair," and use it like a leverage for you, So I think that this tool is just really useful, and again, it doesn't have to be your this determining factor, but definitely can help with any trades. Anything else you want to add here, Tyler, before we jump off? Because I think we covered everything pretty good. If I'm missing anything, let me know, point it out. But for the most part, as you can see, this tool has so many functions, and you can do so many things with it. Not only during your draft, not only preparing for your draft, but also in season stuff that I think is really cool. Anything you want to add here?
We covered it pretty well. I will say, if you're going to use this during a draft, definitely test drive it like we had talked about. Get yourself familiar with how it operates and the ins and outs of the MyGURU tool. Again, it's middle of August. Many of these drafts are taking place in the upcoming weeks. We've got less than a month now until week 1 kicks off. So test drive it now, learn the ins and outs, and be ready to dominate once your leagues are ready to draft.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna take us off screen share so that the listeners can see our mugs right before we sign off on this Saturday afternoon here. So let me take us off. And here we are, guys. It's Tyler and myself. Hope this was helpful. Any questions you have regarding this, feel free to reach out to us. We'll walk you through it. Again, I did a MyGURU tutorial earlier in the year, back in June. The podcast that Ray and I did will cover everything in depth as well. And so should this video. So any other questions, anything we may have left out that you have questions on, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're always in the chat anyways, answering questions. So you can find us there or on Twitter. Any final thoughts here, Tyler?
That's it.
All right, guys. Deuces.